I only get to do it once. Okay, we're nice Dawood. Learning a very important inyan of chukim and mishpatim. This has nothing to do with Hanukkah, of course. I mean, this particular paragraph, but it's unbelievably important. This is why people learn this mimer, even though, they might learn it in the summer. Nice Dalit and Hay are the two most general pieces of information that are important. So we learned that the second pshat that we said about the Greeks, the first pshat was that what bothered the Greeks were chukim and edus and mishpatim they could handle because those resonate in seichel. The second pshat was that even edus and mishpatim bothered them. Why? Well, because the Rebbe explains what edus and mishpatim are really all about. The ikar of a mitzvah is ratzon avaya. That's what a mitzvah is. It's the will of the Eibishter. Which, if you want to know what that means, so learn the fourth and fifth.
Got him. Thank you.
Had a baby that fast. Look at that. Baruch Hashem, like the women in Mitzrayim. You want to know what that's all about? Learn the fourth and fifth chapter of Tanya well. I mean, we just did it in Chittis, but Chittis sometimes people learn quickly. Learn it well. You want to learn it well, so do it with Yossi Paltiel. Yossi Paltiel has amazing classes in Tanya in his what's it called? Inside Chassidus, right? Inside Chassidus app. Yes, thousands and thousands of classes there, and amongst them are classes on Tanya. So certainly reasonable to do. In Perek Dalet and Perek Hey and Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains at great length the inyan of mitzvahs and Talmud Torah. So the ikar of mitzvahs is ratzon avaya. Sometimes that ratzon is mislavish in seichel, is the language of the Rebbe, that it's clothed in seichel. Now, always it's clothed in some level of seichel, right? Meaning every mitzvah also has a chokhmah, has an intellectual base in chokhmas Hashem. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says when he discusses mitzvah. Mitzvahs ritzonei v'chokhmasei yizbarach, the ratzon and the chokhmah of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. Do you have one of these? See that coming? Isn't it good that you found yours? Ritzonei v'chokhmasei yizbarach. That means sometimes the ratzon, which is lamayla mina seichel, beyond intellect, comes down into seichel. And when I say sometimes, it sometimes comes down into seichel that actually human beings can understand. Because sometimes a mitzvah will have a certain aspect of seichel, of intellect, but not that which human seichel can appreciate. Maybe malachim can appreciate. We talked yesterday about shatnez, how that definitely has some component of seichel, but it's spiritual, it's not physical. Can't test it in a laboratory, but you can talk about it once you understand what chesed is and what gevura is and what the story of Cain and Hevel is all about, right? Okay. But you have to understand that, but that's all spiritual information. So Ratzon can descend into Chokhmah, but even when it does, the ikar of the mitzvah is Ratzon, and therefore we do the mishpat like a choik, not mitzad ourselves, not simply because you and I are supposed to have that attitude when we do a mishpat, that it's as if it's really a choik, and we're doing it not because it makes sense, but because the Eibishter said so. So that's true, but that's not really the deepest understanding of the whole thing. When we appreciate what a mishpat really is, we realize we don't understand why Kadosh Baruch Hu said don't steal. It might resonate in human intellect so that you and I can explain on human terms why not stealing is a good idea and stealing is a bad idea. Okay, but I will rationalize stealing in certain instances if it's not based on the fact that it's the Ratzon of Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'll figure out how to do it when it's in my interest. Right? Mr. Nottingham Forest. Right. There's a statue of him there. Been there a few times because there's a university there, and the university has two amazing shulchan, the Lentz and Mendy and Bracha. I think the name is Bracha. Mendy and Bracha Lent were amazing. And the first time I was there, as he drove me to the train to go back to wherever I was going, I guess I was going to Manchester. He took me to the train, and he decided to show me the sights of Nottingham. And what's the site of Nottingham? The statue of Robin Hood right next to Nottingham Forest. Little statue of the Ganef right there. Amazing. Robin Hood, hero. He's a thief. Okay. So we are right in the middle of the first paragraph on page Chaf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines down. We finished at that period by the word v'chulei, right? Meaning the Rebbe said sometimes the reason for a mitzvah, which exists above, will descend all the way down until it's clothed in our reason. But then we also have to appreciate the fact that hatam hazeh, hamuvan lanu, that's understood to us, ain't a tachlis hatam. That's not the ultimate reason. Right? The ultimate reason we don't steal, in terms of reason, the ultimate reason not to steal is whatever it is that the infinite intellect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands, which you and I don't. Share gam seichel aneshi, even human intellect, mevin bepashtus, understands simply, sheseichel mugbal, that limited intellect, which is what ours is, ein b'yacholto lahasi chochmasi yisbarach, is not able to comprehend chochmasi yisbarach, the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bilti mugbelis. That's beyond limitation. You and I don't know what infinite chochmah is. We don't know what infinite anything is. Right? You and I cannot understand infinite reality. We have we can talk about it within the context. It's what's called hasaga shlilis, negative comprehension. Right? I know what it isn't. Say it. I experience finite. Okay, there's a level of reality called infinite. I don't know what it is, and I actually have no positive word to describe it. All I call it is not finite. I can't say what it is. I can just say what it isn't, even in terms of just giving it a name. It doesn't have a name in positive reality because we don't live there. So do you want to describe infinite reality to someone? Well, you won't be able to describe infinite reality. You'll just be able to help a person understand that there is a state of reality beyond what they experience. Either they'll believe you or they won't, right? I mean, you don't really have to believe in terms of infinite, because infinite is anybody who, and we've talked about this many times, anybody who, has any understanding of anything going on in the world, and David, our mathematician's not here anymore, but basically everybody who's not living under a rock knows that there's an infinite amount of numbers between the number 1.1 and the number 1 and the number 1.1. There's an infinite amount of numbers in there. You'll never get to the end of the numbers. Just keep adding another zero. And that's just a few of them, right? Because that's just 1.01, but there's also 1.021, and there's no end. No end to the amount of numbers you can find in between 1.1 and 1.1. Okay. There's an infinite amount of points in space in between these two finite points in space. Mm-hmm. In between these, there's half infinite, right? Is that right? Oh, no. It doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't work that way. Right? Okay. Now, as soon as I put a pencil mark on the piece of paper, so now that's a finite point. Still part of an infinite set of points. Okay, so you and I live in a place where infinite is, just don't see it. Right? It's the part we don't see. As soon as you see it, you've turned it into finite. Right? As soon as I write that number down, now it's a finite number. It's still part of an infinite set of numbers, but I don't have to write it down. It's a finite number because it exists. 1.01 is a finite number. Okay, fine, but it's still part of an infinite set of numbers. Right? Okay, so finite and infinite have this dance down here in the finite world. But what you and I experience is finite reality, and we can talk about infinite. We just did, but I don't know what it is. I know what it isn't. Seichel's limited, and even Seichel understands that Seichel is limited, right? And if Seichel doesn't understand that Seichel is limited, that's not called Seichel, that's called stupid, right? I know that's not Seichel, that's not intellect, That's emotion, something else, right? I don't want there to be infinite reality because I find it challenging, because I might actually have to act a certain way if there's infinite reality. But if all there is what I see, then I can do whatever I want and I'm happy that way. That's not intellect. That's emotions. Okay, and emotions often cloud intellect. Interesting enough, we just started yesterday in the Alter Rebbe. When the Alter Rebbe discusses the Nefesh Elokis, he discusses first intellect and then emotion. When he discusses the Nefesh Bahamis, he discusses first emotion, then intellect, because the Nefesh Bahamis generally is emotional. Because the Nefesh Bahamis is all about me, and what's emotion? Subjective me. I feel. Right? Do you feel? No, I don't know what you feel. I know what I feel. Do you think 2 + 2 is 4? Yes, I certainly hope you do. Right? Right? And I also think 2 + 2 is 4. Why? Because that's not subjective reality, that's objective reality. In every beis above 4, 5 and up, 2 + 2 is 4. Right? And I don't care what you feel, I don't care what you want, I don't care what makes you feel better, sad, happy, 2 + 2 is 4, just deal with it. No, but I want it to be 5. Okay, good. That's good. Here, take a ruggle, go sit in the corner. We'll give you some pudding too, and you can sit and be happy in the corner with your ruggelach and your pudding, but you're just living in never land with Peter Pan. All right, 2 + 2 is 4. That's just the way it is, because intellect is objective reality. Relative to the Nefesh Elokis, what does the Alter Rebbe discuss first? Objective reality, intellect. And that objective understanding should give birth to healthy midos. Nefesh Bahamis, animal soul, subjective me, my animal soul, right? And then what? Then intellect, because left to its own, the intellect of the Nefesh Bahamis will be bottled to the emotions of the Nefesh Bahamis and will do what you and I call rationalizing. I can't, you don't do anything without thinking about it. You have to think about it because you have this thing on the top of your shoulders called a head, and everything's happening in there, whether you want it to or not. It just happens in there. Okay, fine. So, but there's something, so to speak, we'll talk about in terms of the heart. So my heart wants something. My heart has to get my intellect to agree, or else nothing will happen. Okay, well, when my heart wants something and how does my Nefesh Bahamis get my intellect to do it? It rationalizes that this is okay. Example, stealing, like we were just talking about. If stealing is solely intellect, so then I'll figure out some way in which my subjective emotional state will convince my emotion, my intellect, which is crummy intellect, to be dictated to by my subjective emotions and decide that stealing's okay in this instance because it's good for me and I want to. Okay. That's not very good intellect. Okay. But intellect understands also that there's something beyond intellect. And if anybody ever asks you about this, the simplest example in the world, and everybody gets it, right? Ask them if they don't believe there's anything beyond intellect and that intellect is unlimited and can do whatever it wants, and and the intellect that you and I use is nothing compared to our abilities. Okay, but it's still limited. And what's the limitation of intellect? Well, it can only understand ideas. Right? It can talk about emotions if you've had them. That's why people write poems about love. Right? But more poems than prose. Why? Well, because it's sort of hard to pin it down. Because it's not an idea. Love's not an idea. It's a feeling. If you've had that feeling, you can talk about it. If you've never had that feeling, God forbid, so then you can't really talk about it. And you might not even believe in it. I'm sure there's people who don't believe in love. You can't prove love in a laboratory. It's not an idea. It's a feeling. Mm-hmm. So prove that there's a feeling called love. Okay, so you hook the guy up, and someone he loves walks in the room, and there's this interesting physiological response that you can measure, his heartbeat, and all sorts of stuff happening, right? Okay. So now you and I believe in love, and we'll say that's because something physiological is happening because of this person's very strong attachment to that person. I get that. What if you don't believe in love? We'll explain it some other way. The same way someone who doesn't believe in God, someone having a spiritual experience will be physiologically measurable. That experience will be measured physiologically in the lab. But the person who doesn't believe in God won't call it God. He'll call it something else. Right? Just won't call it what you and I would probably call it. Okay? because you can't prove it in a lab. You can see that the numbers are changing, however these things are measured, right? You can see that something's happening, but who says you have to explain it as that's called love? Right? It's a physiological response to someone walking in the room. Love doesn't exist. Lust, oh, that exists. I felt that, but love, no, doesn't exist. If a person's never been loved, they might not believe in it, which is very sad. You look around the world, there seem to be people like that, right? I mean, you have a hard time wondering why they act the way they act if they've ever experienced love. But okay, who knows? Right? There's one thing they do love, it's called themselves, but they wouldn't necessarily call that love because they don't believe in it. Do you believe in God? Well, hopefully, but can you prove God in a laboratory? No, because he's beyond intellect. It's not an idea. Right? Can you ask a blind person to explain to you, can you explain the color orange to someone who was born blind? No, why not? It's not an idea. What is it? It's a visual experience. He never had one. Why not? He was born blind, so he's never had visual experience. Right? Okay, so he can't possibly understand the idea of orange. It's not an idea. Now, once you've experienced orange, you can talk about it, and two designers in Milan can sit and discuss how this cloth what it would look like with different shades of orange, and they can do that, and they're good at that, and they would create a garment that you go, wow, that's really a striking piece of clothing. Okay, fine. That can happen. But that's because they've seen orange, so they can talk about it. That's why you and I can talk about love, because we've experienced it. Okay. So intellect's limited. And the Rebbe says even Seichel understands that intellect is limited. Good intellect understands that intellect is limited. Sheseichel mugbal, and what doesn't it understand? Things that are, that's the most obvious thing it doesn't understand is the Chachma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay.
What is mugbal?
Limited. V'adarabba, au contraire, on the contrary, that which in any particular place nisgala v'nisparish, it's been revealed and explained, ezetam, a particular reason, hamuvan lanu, that's understood by us. He says, who pella gadol? That's an absolute wonder. Pella is a wonder. It's a great wonder. That's unbelievable. That there's something in the Eibishter's chachma that you and I can actually understand. Okay, we can't understand exactly what it is up there, but that we can actually have an inkling, a connection to that idea, amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. V'hurak, and what does that come from? Chesed Hashem, the great loving kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shegam seichel adam, that also human intellect, yeloi eza soga, that human intellect will have some comprehension in this idea, in this desire of the Eibishter. The Eibishter will reveal to you and I an inkling of the tam for that ratzon of his. The reason for that will. Wow. V'gam la'achrei shebechesed Hashem. And even after, in the loving kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nisgalav v'nisparish tam amuvan lanu, it's revealed and explained a reason that makes sense to us. How do you do it? It's known, shatam hu rak al klolis mitzvah. This is why I'm saying something really very, very interesting, that the tam is only regarding the general reality of the mitzvah, and not the details. Meaning, if you and I understand, that you're not allowed to steal, okay? So, now obviously you and I can also understand details of that mitzvah, right? Meaning, how do we understand the details of that mitzvah? Well, we don't understand the reason for the details of that mitzvah, but we understand the details by virtue of the fact that we learned the sugya in the Gemara, and we learned the Rishonim, and then we learned Hilchas Geneva in Shulchan Aruch. So we understand something about Hilchas Geneva and Hilchas Gezela, right? But why exactly all of those pratim go into making up that particular mitzvah? I'm not sure, right? There might be other ways of understanding it. Why is it this is the way we understand it? Okay, and even if, and this is even more interesting in terms of our understanding of reality, even if we can come to a certain appreciation as to why that makes sense within the context of the reality that we experience, why is it that the reality we experience is the reality that there is? Why are there 10 spheres? God wanted there to be 10 spheres. Why do you want there to be 10 spheres? He just did. So I can understand that he has a desire for 10 spheres. That I see, because there are 10. Okay. And there are 10. If there were 12 spheres, I'd assume you'd have another one sticking out somewhere, right? And you would count in base 12. You just call 12 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We do everything in base 10. Why? Because there's 10 spheres. Why did God make everything in base 10? I don't know. He just did. Right. So you and I can understand all sorts of interesting intellectual things in general. Right? But the details of it, like why 10? I don't know. Because he wanted 10. And if he wanted 12, so it would be 12. What difference does it make? If he wanted 6, there'd be 6. And if he wanted to be 5 days a week and then Shabbos, so there'll be 5 days a week and then Shabbos, and then the whole natural world would be an Indian of 5, and 6 would be 5 days of creation, the 5th day being Shabbos, and 6 would be L'mayla min haTeva. Could that work?
If you wanted it to work.
If you wanted it to work, that's how it would work. Right? And instead of being 4 worlds, there would be 8 or 2. Right? That's whatever he wants. That's what's going to be. He's unlimited. He wants there to be no levels of godly light in between the essence of God and Olam Atzilus. There's Ein Sof levels in between those two places. He didn't want it. No, straight from there down to Atzilus. Al Pi Chassidus, that doesn't work. Never said Al Pi Chassidus doesn't work. There'd be a new Chassidus if that's the way he did it, right? If that's the way he did it, so that's the way he did it, and that's all we'd know. There would be nothing called Or Shevev, only Or Mamale. God can create the world that way. He can do whatever he wants. It's completely unlimited. Nothing outside of the essence of God exists because it must exist. Everything exists solely because God wants it to. And that includes the highest levels of infinite godly light. They only exist because God wants that level of light to exist. The only thing that has to be is God's essence. So it's called Mechuyev HaMetzias. That's what has to be. That's the only thing that can't not be. Any other level of reality, even the highest levels of godly reality, don't have to be. They're there because God wants them. Any mitzvah. God doesn't want that mitzvah to be a mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah. He could have made 614. He could have made 582. He could do whatever he wants. So he decided he wanted Taryag. Okay, now Taryag is a very important thing because in every level, what's Taryag? 613 is the most complete expression of God's will. Even though, interesting enough, there's 7 Rabbanan, which altogether make Tarach mitzvahs, which is Gematria Keser. Keser is the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed in this world through 620 mitzvahs, 613 Deraisas, 7 mitzvahs Rabbanan. Okay, all very amazing. But I mean, if you want that number to be 580, so it'd be 580. I mean, so we figure out what that means, and it would mean something in the context of the reality we live in. And on every level of reality, the Rebbe will see this in Basi Lagani. Every level of reality, yes, there's basically 10 spheres that we understand, but there's also 613 ways in which 613 aspects of every single level of reality, corresponding to 613 mitzvahs, which are the ultimate expression of God's will. So God's will is expressed in every single reality in 613 different ways. Why 613? I don't know. Well, it's 10 times 10 times 6, which is space, dimension. Okay, plus 13, which is Gematria Echad. Now I get it. Now I know why there's 613. So don't make 10, 10, and don't make 100, 100, and don't make 6 dimensions in space. Make, I don't know, 12, 8, 2, 7, I don't know. Do whatever you want. So the details, we don't get the details. We get the general idea of it all. Why it is, who knows? Shemikol zeh moving from all of this, it's understood. Shegama mitzvahs to Eidos and Mishpatim, also the mitzvahs of Eidos, right? Eidos meaning Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuos, Shabbos, that testify to certain events in history or certain major events Shabbos is an event in history, but it's a little bigger than that. Umishpatim heim k'mei chukim legabeinu, relative to us, they're like chukim. Meaning what? That the true pneumistic intellect of that reality is beyond our understanding. Mikevan shegam tamei mitzvahs. Why is that? Since also the reasons of the mitzvahs, shemitzad chachmasa yisbarach, that come as a result of the chachma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, heim lamayla miseichel l'nivroim. The true reason for mitzvahs is beyond human intellect. Are the things we understand? There's amazing things we understand. Incredibly sophisticated things we understand. Baruch Hashem, the Eibusher has revealed so much to us that's beyond belief. Talmud Bavli, Chassidus. It's unbelievable what there is out there. I mean, you keep learning and learning and learning, and you just scratch the surface. Right? Okay. But ultimately, it's still, you're just scratching the surface of what it is that humans can understand, and there's a lot more beyond that. Even though what we do understand is quite astounding. There's levels of godly reality that are opened up to us in Chassidus that are just amazing. Absolutely amazing. These transcendent levels and how godly light works. Right? Why did the Eibusher do it that way? Why did he create? I mean, Chassidus talks about all these different levels of godly reality. Why did the Eibusher create all these? Not create, because that's really a technical term. Why did the Eibusher somehow bring into being all of these different levels of godly reality, godly light, so that you and I can talk about it? So you and I can actually, there's something to learn and talk about and understand. So there's this incredible event called the creation of the world. And it's not that God just goes poof and there's a world. No, there's this whole long process that can ultimately be understood in 22 different levels corresponding to the 22 letters of the Aleph base. And the four worlds, Atzilus, Bri, Yetzirah, Asiyah, which we talk about, the Seder Ishtalshelus, the natural order of the four worlds, which we'll understand in Basi Lagani, which is the next mimer we're going to learn. So those four worlds in the scheme of Aleph through Taf, so they're either Shin and Taf or just Taf. They're like the end of it all. What's up above there? All sorts of levels of godly reality, incredible stuff. Okay, why is it there? So you and I can think about it and talk about it and learn about it and bring God into our conscious reality. Because if it weren't there, we'd have nothing to say. If it was straight from the essence of God to the snail on the sidewalk leaving slime, there would be nothing to talk about. How'd that happen? Don't know. It just did. Shh. Stop asking questions and eat your oatmeal. Right? That'll be that. What can you talk about? Right? You shouldn't believe in God creating the world. God forbid. Don't believe in it. You should understand it very, very, very well. The same way my mechanic doesn't believe in the existence of my car engine. I do. My relationship to the car engine is complete emunah. Completely, because I know nothing about what's going on in there. Now I know even less, because when I open up the hood of my hybrid, I see something I've never seen before. I don't even know which part is the non-hybrid part and which part is the hybrid. I don't know what I'm looking at. It's completely different. I mean, I've only looked at it for, I'm sure if I opened it up and looked for a while, I'd find, okay, there's the oil dipstick. There's got to be one of those somewhere around here, right? And that's the carburetor over there. Okay, there is a carburetor here somewhere, right? And this guy, it has a carburetor because it's a hybrid, right? It's not just, some computer sitting there giving you extra trunk space. There is a carburetor around here somewhere. Okay, so I could probably find it, but it sure looks different. And I'm not going to take the time to find it. I'll take it into Yonatan, and Yonatan will take care of it. Because I just sort of have emunah pshuta in the fact that my car will work. Emunah pshuta in the fact that the Eibusher created the world. Chas v'shalom, you should be able to explain how God created the world. What a seviv is, what a mamale is, what a tzilus is, what bri is, what a yetzirah is, what a tziyah is. You should be able to explain all that. Understand it clear as a bell. Right? Why? I don't know. He wanted dir b'tachtonim, and it's called a taivin. We can't explain it. Okay, but within the context of that, now we understand that. So then we should be able to explain everything else. How do you do that? See this. Next mimer we're going to learn. Basi Lagani will explain Seder Ishtalshelus very, very, very clearly. What's the difference between Atzilus, Bri, Yetzirah, Asiyah? What's Sevev? What's Mamale? The Mittler Rebbe wanted his Chassidim to meet in the middle of the street and discuss. There's two different girses as to what it is that he wanted their spontaneous discussion to be about. And both of them you can understand. Yechudi La, Yechudi Tata, the last mimer we learned. Right? They should just discuss Yechudi La, Yechudi Tata. That should be that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about whether Ben Shapiro is a better guy than some other guy. Right? He's a good guy, Ben Shapiro. What? He's a good guy. He's a good guy. Okay, but that doesn't have to be my conversation in life. Right? My conversation in life can be about Yehudi Ilah and Yehudi Tata. Okay, or the other girsa is Seviv and Mamale. Infinite light and light that expresses itself in finite. How can infinite light express itself in finite? How does that work? Okay, that's or Mamale. Learn Basi Lagani, Tafshin Yud. The Rebbe explains it in the first paragraph, the first chapter, incredibly clearly. 20 lines explaining what Mamale is and what Seviv is. That are so clear that in 20 lines you can do it. Okay. Believe God created the world. My mechanic believes in my engine. Believe in my engine. He understands my engine. So you should understand that God created the world. It's based on a belief that happened. I get that because you can't prove it in a laboratory. Okay, fine. But to be able to explain it, that's intellect. So unbelievably sophisticated things come into our intellect. But still we understand that the Eibishter himself is l'mayla min intellect. Oh, I've got God in my back pocket. Via Seder Mizu, not only even the intellect of the mitzvahs are beyond our intellect. Shem Ritzonecha, but they're Ritzonecha, 5 lines up in the bottom of the paragraph. Ritzone Yizbarach Shelamayla Gam Michachmas Yizbarach. The Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is beyond the Chachma, the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ratzon is higher than Chachma. That's why your intellect is powered by your will. You think about those things you want to. Right? You don't want to think about it, so don't think about it. And as a matter of fact, if you don't want to think about it, you won't think about it. There might be somewhat conflicting wants. Your Nefesh Elokis would like you to think about certain things, and your Nefesh Bahamis might want you to think about other things. Okay, Beseder. So when that desire of the Nefesh Bahamis pops into your head and you find yourself thinking about something that you'd rather not think about, so get rid of it. Go away. Stop thinking about it. Hard to do? Hard to do. No question. Okay, start singing a niggun. I don't know. Jump up and down. Do exercise. Do something. Get that thought out of your head. Now, it's going to come back. Say to get it out the second time. Why? Because there's a deeper will that you have where you don't want to think this thought. Right. Dependent on will. Someone once asked the Maggid, he said he's having a hard time with strange thoughts while he's davening. The Maggid says, and when you say that, you call about machshavos zaros. Machshavot thoughts, zarot mean foreign, literally. Foreign thoughts. He said, I have machshavos zaros when I daven, and I don't know what to do with them. And the Maggid told him, they're not foreign, they're yours. They feel right at home. I don't understand why you're calling them foreign. Right? They're your thoughts. That's what you think about all day. So that's what you think about when you daven Shemona Esrei. I don't understand why are they foreign? Another person was asked by the Maggid the same question. He sent him to I hate when this happens. No, he sent him to one of his Hasidim, one of the Hasidim of the Maggid.
It's with the door, closing the door, right?
Kitzis. Where was he? No. Anyway, it's really frightening. And so he sent him, and he came to this town and went in and knocked on the door. He didn't answer the door for a while. Finally let him in, didn't say hello, just said, here's your room. What time do you want to get up? This is when minyan is. I go to the mikveh here and I study here. And he did, basic things and said, okay, I'll see you in the morning. Okay, strange welcome. Fine. So then he treated him that way for about a week. Barely paid any attention to him. Yeah, he took care of him. He made sure he had what to eat, but he didn't enter into any conversation with him at any point. And after a week, the guy came to him and said, I'm going home. So he said, why are you going home? He said, well, because I came here to learn something. I didn't learn anything. He said, what do you mean? You came here to learn something and you learned exactly what you have to learn. He said, you didn't even talk to me. How could I learn anything from you? He said, you came here because the Rebbe said, you told the Rebbe you have problems with machshavos zaros, and the Rebbe sent you to me. I taught you a very simple lesson. If it's your house, you let in whoever you want. If it's your house, you let in whoever you want. You don't want someone in, don't answer the door. That's what he learned. And at some point, I'll remember where he went. because that was in there, but it fell out. At a certain point, your head starts having holes and things start falling out of it. It's all right. It's better than the alternative. Not reaching the age where you start to forget things. It's better to reach the age and forget a few things than not reach it. And that four lines, right? That which the Yevonim wanted to move us away, it's also the mitzvahs that resonate in Seichel. What did they want to take out of us? And they do. I mean, again, the Yevonim existed way back then, but the Yevonim exist today. Western culture is basically a Greek culture, okay? Obviously, with a few, new and improved models, fine. But I mean, it's based on the Greek model, okay? There's still lots and lots, not everybody, but there's lots and lots of people who grow up in, usually it's the parents of the people that we know, right? People who grow up in Western society, and there's a basic understanding that if you don't have a university education, you're basically not worth taking up space in the world, right? Okay, it's a pretty heavy thing to say, right? Okay, and that applies to almost all the Jews in North America. Right? I mean, you're not considered a human being unless you have some sort of degree. In what? Okay. Sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. I mean, whatever it is, right? It's not the worst thing in the world. But is it absolutely necessary? No, it's not absolutely necessary. A person can be a caring, loving, kind, good human being and do all sorts of good things in the world and make the world a better place because they're in it, even though they don't. I know I'm going to say something blasphemous here, even though they do not have a college education. Oh my gosh. Struck by lightning. Right? Okay. Does that mean college education is the worst thing in the world to have? I didn't say that. I have one too. Right? Is it useful? There are certain parts of my college education that are useful. I did learn how to express myself in English in college. They taught us how to do that. I went to college a long time. They did. I mean, we had to do that. We were told, read a book, and now you're going to come and explain what you read in English without I think you know. None of those words are allowed. You have to explain what it said. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a very useful thing to learn how to do. There's no question that was a useful thing to learn how to do. I make a living out of expressing myself in English. Okay, poorly, better, I don't know. But still, it's a living, Okay, so, but is it absolutely necessary? No. Who says it is? The Greek. The Greek says that if you don't know certain things, then you're just, you're a knuckle dragger. You're barely worth my time. Okay, that's just not true. What else might the Greek do? And this is heavier. And this we all feel. Ki Yavonim, what did they want to do? Bikshu laker chos v'sholom, 3 lines up. Yisrael, es hahergesh eluki shebamitzvos. They wanted to take away our godly sensitivity to mitzvahs and in mitzvahs. That we shouldn't feel the elukus in a mitzvah. Do a mitzvah beseder and explain to yourself intellectually why this is a reasonable thing to do. My life will have more meaning. Right? There'll be a certain order to my life. So there's reasons why Torah and mitzvahs is a good idea, right? The meaningful life thing is very much out there, and there's a great book toward a meaningful life, and it's a necessary book to write for the generation that he wrote it for, 100%, because people have a real problem with the fact that there doesn't seem to be, the voices out there telling you there's no meaning to anything. Nothing means anything. It's all random, right? Okay, that's not true. So I want to find some sort of order in the whole thing. Okay, and if I find order in Yiddishkeit, so I feel much better. It's amazing. That's great. That's fantastic. Is that why a person does Torah and mitzvahs? Well, not according to what we just read. Why do you turn mitzvahs? Because God wants it. And God's big. Right? I have to get to that point. Am I going to start at that point? Of course I'm not going to start at that point. Who starts at such a point? It's impossible. Of course I'm going to start from the point of the reality I'm coming from. It's going to have to make sense to that reality. So 100%, if we talk to people about Yiddishkeit, and if you talk to people about Yiddishkeit, you're going to talk to them within the context of how they understand reality. Right? And so someone walks into Chabad house, and what's the idea? To show them just how nice Shabbos is. Shabbos is just a good time. Okay, why? Because a good time is really very important. Very important. Good time is extremely important. Okay, they don't have to cook the food, and they don't have to clean up afterwards, because that's not such a good time. But they'll enjoy the good time of Shabbos. Okay, good. That's great. That's perfectly reasonable. And you're going to talk to them about how Yiddishkeit is good for them. 100%. And it is. There's no question it is. At a certain point, what happens? It stops being about whether Yiddishkeit is good for me, and it starts being about the fact that Yiddishkeit is truth with a capital T and a capital R and a capital U and a capital T and a capital H, and God is real with a capital R and a capital E and a capital A and a capital L, and that's where it's at, and just be there, because there's nowhere else to be. That's what it really is. Okay, and that's what Chassidus opens us up to, which is so exciting and so amazing and so hard to live up to. Because there's still this me making noise in my head. And okay, say there. That me might be Greek. Probably is. And he might, have a hard time feeling any elokus in a mitzvah. Doesn't mean he doesn't do them. Okay. The Greek wants us to be unfeeling. Shekol mitzvah same chachmosi yisbarach shelamayla miseichel l'neishi. And he wants to take that away from us. And that's lavira michuke, right? That's him moving away michuke. This is all about mitzvahs. It's very interesting, right? The Rebbe said that this was a spiritual battle. He talked about Torah for half a paragraph and then talked about mitzvahs for a page. Right? You would think it would be the other way around because the Greek is an intellectual. No, but the intellect of the Greek, yes, it's affecting Torah, which we're going to also see in the next. But even more, it's affecting the way we do mitzvahs, because we'll do mitzvahs in a cold, calculated, intellectual way. Then the Greek is happy. He's more than happy. You do the mitzvah, fine. Put on your tefillin and talk about how it's making you feel that you're doing something meaningful in life. No problem. Just don't talk about God. Don't dray me a cup with this God business, please. The Greek says. Such a creep. Shekola mitzvah same chachmasi is baruch. Oh, but he's there and he's smart, because he knows where to get us. Shekola mitzvah same chachmasi is baruch shelamayla miseichel l'neishi lavira michuke. That's to move us away from the chukim. We have to appreciate the fact that everything's lamayla minaseichel. Ubikshu, what did he want to do? Second thing, bikshu lakor chas Hashem is a hergish in the mitzvahs. We want to take away from us the sensitivity of mitzvahs. Shem Ritzeni is Baruch, that they're the Ratzon of the Eibishter, Ritzei Nechel. And what's the hergish of a mitzvah? So Chassidus talks about it. We've talked about it here. We'll mention it again because it's such a beautiful idea, and then we'll have time to do hay. It's very short but amazing. What's the Ratzon of a mitzvah? How does Ratzon work? Okay, how does Ratzon work? How do you and I work? So you have a desire. Your desire is you want to take a sip of coffee. So what do? Excuse me, please. Hand. Could you please move from where you are, grasp the cup and move it to my lips? Lips. Could you please open just enough to let the coffee in, but not so much that it'll spill all over me? Is that what I have to tell myself? No. If I want to drink coffee, what happens automatically? At a certain point, that's part of the process also. Right, okay. Yeah? How's that work? I have a ratzon. My hand is completely bottled to that person we're calling me. It's my hand, but it's not, it's me, and it's not me at the same time, right? So real me is in there somewhere, right? So real me comes to this appreciation of the fact that I would like a sip of coffee, and immediately my hand, which is bottled to that part of me, picks up the cup and puts it to my lips, which are also bottled to that part of me, and they each do their part in fulfilling that ratzon. And they don't have to be told. I mean, they are told, we know, through this, physiological, neurological thing going on. Okay, but there's no conscious telling them, right? I have to tell them, please move hand, because it's me. It's completely bottled to me, right? And therefore, even though on one hand it's not me, because, Reuven, let's talk about Reuven. If, God forbid, Reuven's hand were cut off, does Reuven exist any less? No. He didn't take a piece of Reuven. Took his hand, but Reuven's as much Reuven as he was before and after him. So life's going to be a little more challenging, but Reuven's Reuven. Okay. So is this hand him or not? Well, if you go like that, he could say one of two things. What are the two things Reuven could say after you did that? Why did you hit me? Why did you hit? Both of those are completely reasonable statements, right? Okay. Because this is me on some level. It's also my hand. It's not me. Okay. And both of those are true. And that's how your hand and you are so unbelievably connected, so that even as soon as you have a rutzon that affects your hand immediately performs that action, because your hand is bottled to you and so one with you. Okay? What if God said, pick up the cup? Now what's the dynamic? What did my hand just become?
An extension of God.
Extension of God. Bottled to him and one with him. It's his hand. Whoa. That's a mitzvah. That's the elokus in a mitzvah. Do I feel that when I do a mitzvah? Laniach tefillin. Immediately, I think it's something good to say. But I can't say it. Hold on. Did you hear? Right. I can do that. That's not what we do every day, but we've all done that, right? Okay. It's pretty crazy if you think about it. In the middle of this unbelievable experience of connecting to godliness in a way getting to God in a way that's just beyond anything that I myself could do, because he gives this ability to us, and it's called mitzvahs. And mitzvah comes miloshen savta, to connect. Chibur. The root of the word mitzvah is chibur, is to connect, join. A tzevet is a crew in Hebrew, right?
זוהי הודעה מוקלטת. מערכת גילוי אש הופעלה. יש להישמע להוראות קצין הכבאות. תודה.
I think we should start singing that before a minor set. We should sit there. Tanu Rabbanan. Okay, I'm going to talk over because we have 5 minutes. In Oisei, the Rebbe says an amazing thing. Is that the beginning of the next one, or is that the end of Okay, Ubezeh Yuvan. Let's Ubezeh Yuvan Lashon Gemara. And in this it's understood the language of the Gemara. Kishenichnesu Yavonim lahechol timo kol hashmanim shebehechol. The Rebbe is about to say an absolutely astounding thing, short and sweet. What this means is as follows: that when they entered into the heichal. Now again, we said this earlier, but now we have to appreciate it again. What does it mean? They did not understand what they were doing relative to oil and being matama oil, right? They didn't, and the fact that the oil was in the heichal, they don't get the chassidus that we're about to explain. But the Eibishter orchestrated events that this is what they did because this is what they really wanted, and this is what they really wanted, and they're brilliant. They're so brilliant. All right? I mean, you can say a lot of things about the Greeks, but they weren't stupid, right? They had a certain brilliance to them. There were certain things about which they were just moronic, but they also had some. They were interested in intellect. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately, they worshipped it. When they entered into the Heichel, what did they do? Hishtadlu v'nisamtzu, two different words of expending great energy and effort. L'tames hashmonim. They wanted to defile the oils. Did they understand exactly what that really meant? No, but that's what they wanted to do. They understood Al-Pi human intellect what is a good idea, because then we couldn't light the menorah. We could, and this was part of their plan to defeat us. Now, based on everything we've said about what they wanted, so this is their plan of the spiritual milchama. Defiling the oil. When Chazal say this, what did they do? That's the single, seemingly most basic thing, the most central thing they did. What does it represent? It represents the whole milchama that they have.
יש להישמע להוראות קצין הכבאות. תודה.
They must have had someone come and say.
Is this the testing?
No, they have testing at 8 a.m. this morning.
Oh, they said 8 a.m.?
Yeah, I forgot.
Well, they're a little late. Okay, Seder. Okay, well, we have 4 minutes. We have 3 minutes, and I'm not taking any questions after class because I have to teach someone at 9:30. So.
Okay, looks like it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay. שכשנכנסו להיכל, הנה השתדלו ניסמסו לטמא השמונים, בכדי לנצח חס ושלום את ישראל. Why? Ki heichel, what's the heichel? What does the heichel represent? Bina, understanding. V'shemen, what's shemen? Well, this everybody knows. Shemen hu chokhmah. Shelamayla miyaseichel de bina, which is beyond the intellect of bina. In intellect, you've hopefully learning Tanya every day, so we just learned it in the 4th chapter, we're now in the 6th. 3 different levels of intellect. Chokhmah, bina, and das. What's chokhmah? The power of intellect. The ability to understand mazeh. Kayach ma, the potentiality of ma, which only humans can do. Right? A dog can't understand mazeh. A dog can understand that it is, but he doesn't understand what it is. Right? Okay. Fine. And even dolphins. Right? Even pigs, who are supposed to be very smart. Even octopi, which are extremely smart. They don't understand what. Only humans can get to the what of it all. And that's the ability to understand, the potential to understand. When that potential is actualized, that's called bina. Ani mevin. You, conscious you, begins in a place called bina. There's no conjugation of the verb chokhmah. You can conjugate anything in Lashon HaKodesh. Mitchakem, and there's psukim in Tanakh. But there's no simple form of ani. I do a pu'ula of chokhmah. There's no action of chokhmah. Chokhmah is just the ability to understand something. Right, the basic intellect. Okay, what does that allow you to do? It allows you to come to a point of ani mevin. Ani mevin, you can conjugate bina in a verb, right? In a verb form. There's an ani in bina. Why? Bina is the seat of human consciousness. The source of human consciousness is chokhmah, but it's beyond intellect. It's beyond consciousness. It's the source of intellect. It's the power of intellect, but it's beyond intellect. It's the part of intellect we don't control. Right? Do you understand why you understand certain things and not others? I don't know. Sometimes I read something, I just get it. Sometimes I read it, I just don't get it. But now what do I do? Right? Oh, you try to do all these things. We're learning Gemara class. How to ask the questions you have to ask when you don't get it. When you read the Gemara and you get it, that's easy. When you read the Gemara and you don't get it, what do you do now? Oh, I'll look in Rashi. All right, great. Oh, I'll look in Art Scroll. Great. Okay, so I'll never learn how to think. Right? Because what if you don't get Rashi? Where do you look? At some point, you have to figure out how to solve a problem, right? It might be in Rashi. It's harder to do it in Rashi than do it in the Gemara. So you better learn it in the Gemara. It's easier there. You can also check whether you're right. You look in Rashi. That's only one pshat, though. That's not the right one. It's one right pshat. Okay, there might be 5 other ones. Asking certain questions and going through a certain intellectual process to come to a point where you can say, Ani mevin, I understand. So bina, what's bina? Bina is heichel. What's heichel? Heichel is a large space, right? What's bina? That's space where all of your conscious reality exists. That's bina. What's chokhmah? Chokhmah is the potential of that space happening. right? So Chokhmah is the potential to understand, Bina is the understanding of it. So what did they want to do? So let's just finish the paragraph and then we'll come back and try to understand. So they wanted to be Matama the Chokhmah Shebabina. What does it mean Chokhmah Shebabina? There's Chokhmah and there's Bina. No, but each of them also include each other. Okay, say this. So there's Bina Shebachokhmah. There's also Chokhmah Shebabina. What's Chokhmah Shebabina? That's what they wanted to do. Defile the oil, Shemen, Shebehechel. Kehechel Bina v'Shemenu Chokhmah. Shelamayla me'seichel the Bina. Canal, like we said earlier. Sif beis, Shemen, who bechinas Kedesh. Shemen is lofty, transcendent. Your basic intellect is something beyond intellect. Right? We don't know how it works. We just know that it works. Right? And even scientifically, we don't know how it works. It's there. There's this thing called human intellect. Okay. So even though it's the source of intellect, it itself on a certain level is beyond intellect. That's why Chokhmah is also in Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's the Yud. It represents the notion of bittul. You're not there yet. There's no you in Chokhmah yet. It's the source of you. It's the ability of you to appreciate your own existence. When does that come into fruition? Ani mevin. There's an ani in Bina. There's no ani in Chokhmah. Not yet. It's the source of ani, but I'm not there yet. Bittul. Chokhmah is bittul. Lachein, what they want to do? Tima is called a shmanim shebahekel debina. They want to defile all the shemen shebahekel debina. We haven't explained that yet. Don't worry, we're going to. B'chtei lahafi chas v'sholem, in order to reach chas v'sholem as mezimosam, their ayuzma is something you. It's initiative. Thank you. Initiative. Good translation. Good job. That to reach their initiative, lashkichem teresechel avim mechuked etzenecho. Elo shalim et Torah v'kim mitzvahs yiyu rak mitzad haseichel. Everything we do will be mitzad haseichel. So what's shemen shebachach? It's so brilliant. Shemen shebina, shemen shebeheichel, chachma shebebina. Bina is what you understand. Shemen shebeheichel, chachma shebebina is how you understand things, how you process intellect. Bina is what you understand. The Greeks are smart. You can understand anything. I don't care what you learn. You can learn Torah all day long. If you process that intellectual information the way I want you to, like a Greek, it will not affect you spiritually in any way, shape, or form. You will just be a Greek who knows a lot. They're so smart, right? Think like a Greek. You can learn Chassidus all day long. It won't affect you because it's all just ideas. It has nothing to do with reality, right? I once went to a lecture of a major non-religious Kabbalist 50 years ago. His name was Gershom Sholem, very famous guy. Right? He established the Kabbalah faculty in the Hebrew University. Came from Europe. Right? And he wrote a lot of books on Kabbalah. Right? So he wasn't from. So he was explaining whatever he was explaining. I don't remember anything he said, but I do remember a question that a kid asked, and what his answer was. A kid got up with a yarmulke on his head and said, there's one thing I don't understand. You know all these fascinating ideas, and you could explain all sorts of Kabbalistic explanations as to what Shabbos is all about, but you don't keep Shabbos. How does that work? So he said in his German accent, it's like today. I remember this was 48 years ago. It's like today. I remember I was sitting over here. This guy was sitting over. It was a big hall, lots of a few hundred people. There was a big thing. He was a very famous guy, right? And this kid was over there, and he was up there. He said, "You idiot!" in his German accent, professor, right? If I were studying Romans, would I have to wear a toga? It's a Greek. Sitting learning Kabbalah doesn't affect him. Ki huzeh. Why? History, intellectual history, interesting ideas. What's it got to do with life? What's it got to do with anything? What are you bothering me for? What is what I'm learning got to do with me? It's just two completely different. Wow. What an amazing line. So that's the ultimate in the Greek. Right? And Rav Steinsaltz said, right, such a beautiful. He said, I said it could happen even with Chassidus. It's harder in Chassidus because, you're sort of confronting God rather powerfully. But even in Chassidus, a person can do it and just be impressed by how much Chassidus they know. But Rabbi Steinsaltz, Ibn Yisrael, Alav Shalom, said that if a person learns Gemara and becomes haughty from his knowledge of Gemara, which is very possible because of the nature of the thing, right? As a matter of fact, there's a whole tractate, there's a whole kuntras of the Rebbe Rashab explaining why we learn Chassidus before davening and after learning. The sandwich of the day in Lubavitch Yeshiva is Chassidus in the beginning, Chassidus in the end, Nigla in the middle. In the old days, it was an hour and a half of Chassidus in the morning, 8 hours of Nigla, an hour and a half of Chassidus at the end. That's how the day worked. But, 2 hours. 2 hours, 8 hours, 2 hours. That's how the day worked. And the Rebbe Rashab talks about that in his kuntras Eitz Chaim. But a person could learn Nigla, and what's Nigla called? What do Chazal say Nigla is? Learning Gemara, learning Halacha. Chazal call it could be Sama Mavis. Sama Mavis, it's Torah, a potion of a poison. Yes. Why? Because a person could learn it and become very haughty by virtue of his intellectual prowess as a result of learning this. So he has to be very careful of that. Okay. And Chazal talk about that. So they say it's like a potion that if you put it on something healthy, it won't burn. But if you put it on something not healthy, it'll heal it. But so it can heal. But you can also put it somewhere and it'll cause a negative response. So that could be learning Nigla. A person could become haughty from virtue of how much they know. So he said that that's like a pregnant woman. She's bigger than normal, but you can explain why. There's a rational explanation as to why that might happen. Right? Okay. He said someone who learns Chassidus and is very impressed with their own knowledge and becomes rather haughty as a result of their knowledge of learning Chassidus, says that's like a pregnant man. He's bigger than he should be, and there's absolutely no explanation for this whatsoever. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, but for the Greek, it's possible. It's just interesting ideas. And, the more interesting ideas I know, then in certain circles, the more respected I am, because certain circles, not all, there's certain places that couldn't care less whether you understand anything, because they just want to know how many beer you can drink in a night, right? But there are other places where what you know is considered very, very important and very lofty. So if you hang around those people and you know a lot, you'll get a lot of covet and a lot of attention. Okay, so people like that. Right? Who are they? They're called Greeks. Right? Okay, do we want to be that way? We want to be that way. That's metam as a shemen shebahecha, an unbelievable thing. It's not what you know. It's how you process information. And if you process it like a Greek, they win. It's an amazing thing. So, okay, we'll go weiter tomorrow. Please don't ask any questions because I have to teach someone at 9:30. Okay.
I think the rabbi you're talking about, Rabbi Zev, maybe?
Zev Kitz.